In the intricate dance of human relationships and spiritual development, one of the most profound skills we can cultivate is the wisdom to discern when tolerance serves our highest good and when confrontation becomes necessary. This delicate balance, rooted in the teachings of spiritual masters and the eternal principles of dharma, requires us to develop both inner strength and compassionate understanding. Before we begin, if you enjoy this video, give me a like, comment below about your thought and hit subscribe button so you don't miss any video inspired by Yogananda's teaching. Thank you very much. The path of spiritual growth is not one of passive acceptance of all circumstances, nor is it a journey of constant resistance and conflict. Rather, it calls us to develop a refined discrimination that allows us to respond appropriately to each situation we encounter. This discrimination, or viveka as it is known in the yogic tradition, becomes the compass that guides us through the complex terrain of daily life. When we speak of tolerance, we must first understand what true tolerance means. It is not weakness, nor is it the suppression of our authentic feelings and needs. True tolerance is born from strength, from a deep well of inner peace that allows us to remain centered even when external circumstances challenge us. It is the capacity to witness the imperfections of others and of life itself without losing our equilibrium, without allowing disturbance to penetrate the sanctuary of our inner peace. There are moments in life when tolerance becomes the highest expression of spiritual maturity. When someone speaks harshly to us out of their own pain, when circumstances unfold in ways that disappoint our expectations, when the world fails to meet our standards of how things should be. These are opportunities to practice the art of patient endurance. In these moments, tolerance is not about condoning wrong behavior or accepting injustice, but rather about maintaining our own inner harmony while the storms of life rage around us. The spiritually awakened person understands that most human failings stem from ignorance rather than malice. People act from their level of consciousness, from their accumulated karma and conditioning. When we recognize this truth, we can meet their limitations with compassion rather than judgment. We can choose to tolerate their imperfections because we understand that they, like us, are souls on a journey toward greater light and understanding. Tolerance also serves us when we recognize that some battles are simply not worth fighting. Not every slight requires a response, not every disagreement demands resolution, not every difference of opinion needs to be argued. There is great wisdom in knowing when to let things pass, when to allow the river of life to flow without our interference. This kind of tolerance conserves our energy for what truly matters and prevents us from becoming entangled in endless conflicts that drain our vitality and disturb our peace. Yet tolerance has its limits, and this is where the wisdom of discernment becomes crucial. There are times when tolerance transforms from a virtue into a vice, when our silence becomes complicity, when our patience enables harm to continue unchecked. The spiritual path does not call us to be doormats for others to walk upon, nor does it ask us to sacrifice our dignity and self-respect on the altar of false peace. Confrontation, when it arises from the right place within us, is not an act of aggression but an expression of truth and love. It is the willingness to speak honestly, to set boundaries, to stand firm in our principles even when doing so creates temporary discomfort or conflict. The key lies in understanding the source from which our confrontation springs. Does it arise from ego, from wounded pride, from a desire to dominate or punish? Or does it emerge from a deeper place of wisdom, from a genuine need to protect what is sacred, to uphold what is right, to prevent harm to ourselves or others? When someone repeatedly violates our boundaries, when their behavior causes genuine harm, when their actions contradict fundamental principles of respect and dignity, these are times when confrontation becomes necessary. To remain silent in such circumstances is not tolerance but self-betrayal. It is a failure to honor the divine spark within us that deserves to be treated with respect and care. The spiritually mature person learns to confront without hatred, to oppose without becoming an enemy, to stand firm without rigidity. This is the art of righteous confrontation, where we address what needs to be addressed while maintaining our inner peace and goodwill toward all beings. We can say no with love, we can establish boundaries with compassion, we can oppose wrong action while still recognizing the inherent divinity in every soul. In relationships, this balance becomes particularly important. A relationship built on false tolerance, where grievances are swallowed and authentic feelings are suppressed, is a relationship built on sand. It may appear peaceful on the surface, but beneath lies a foundation of resentment and unspoken truth. Healthy relationships require the courage to confront when necessary, to speak our truth with love, to address issues before they fester and poison the connection between souls. Yet we must also recognize that not every moment of friction in a relationship requires confrontation. Partners, friends, and family members will inevitably have moments of weakness, times when they fall short of their best selves. If we confront every imperfection, every momentary lapse, we create an atmosphere of constant tension and judgment. The wise person learns to tolerate the small things, to overlook minor irritations, to give others the space to be human and imperfect. The question then becomes, how do we know which path to choose in any given moment? The answer lies in developing our inner guidance, in cultivating a connection with the deeper wisdom that resides within each of us. This wisdom speaks not through the loud voice of ego but through the quiet whisper of intuition, through the feeling of rightness that arises when we are aligned with truth. Before deciding whether to tolerate or confront, we must first go within. We must ask ourselves honest questions: am I reacting from ego or responding from wisdom? Is this situation truly harmful, or am I simply uncomfortable with something that challenges my preferences? Will confrontation serve the highest good, or will it merely satisfy my need to be right? Can I tolerate this situation while maintaining my integrity, or does tolerance in this case mean abandoning my principles? These questions require us to develop self-awareness, to become intimate with our own patterns and motivations. We must learn to distinguish between the voice of wisdom and the voice of fear, between the call to authentic action and the impulse toward reactive behavior. This discernment is not developed overnight but through years of practice, through meditation and self-reflection, through the honest examination of our choices and their consequences. There is also the matter of timing. Even when confrontation is necessary, the moment we choose to engage can make all the difference. Confronting someone in the heat of anger, when emotions are running high and rational thought is clouded, rarely produces positive results. The wise person learns to wait, to allow the initial surge of emotion to pass, to approach difficult conversations from a place of centeredness and clarity. Similarly, there are times when tolerance is appropriate in the short term while we gather our strength and wisdom for a necessary confrontation later. We need not react immediately to every situation. Sometimes the most skillful response is to step back, to observe, to allow ourselves time to understand the full picture before deciding how to proceed. The practice of meditation becomes invaluable in developing this discernment. In the stillness of meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. We develop the capacity to witness our reactions without immediately acting on them. This inner spaciousness allows us to respond to life's challenges with wisdom rather than merely reacting from habit and conditioning. Through regular meditation, we also strengthen our connection to the deeper self, to that aspect of our being that is untouched by the dramas and conflicts of daily life. From this place of inner stability, we can more easily discern when tolerance serves us and when confrontation is required. We become less reactive, more responsive, more aligned with the flow of divine wisdom that seeks to express itself through us. It is also important to recognize that the balance between tolerance and confrontation may shift over time and across different areas of our lives. What we tolerate in one relationship may not be acceptable in another. What we confront today may be something we would have tolerated in an earlier stage of our development. As we grow in wisdom and self-awareness, our capacity for both tolerance and skillful confrontation expands. The ultimate goal is not to become someone who never tolerates anything or someone who confronts everything, but rather to become a person of wisdom who can flow naturally between these two responses as circumstances require. We become like water, which can be soft and yielding when flowing around obstacles, yet powerful and forceful when cutting through stone. We develop the flexibility to adapt our response to what each moment calls for. In the end, both tolerance and confrontation are expressions of love when they arise from the right place within us. Tolerance is love that gives space, that allows for imperfection, that recognizes the humanity in all beings. Confrontation is love that protects, that upholds truth, that refuses to allow harm to continue unchecked. Both are necessary, both are valuable, and both require wisdom to employ skillfully. As we walk the spiritual path, we learn that life is not about choosing between tolerance and confrontation as fixed strategies, but about developing the wisdom to know which response serves the highest good in each unique situation. This wisdom comes not from following rigid rules but from cultivating inner awareness, from staying connected to our deepest truth, from remaining open to the guidance that flows from the divine source within us all.